Welcome to a brand new life, to a brand new day. Reporting to you all the way from the wastelands of California, deep inside a boiler room. My name is Michael, and I am a mere figment of your imagination. First-time listeners out there, we hope you enjoy your stay. Please come again. My guest this evening is Dr. Richard Allen Miller. He is an author and a world-renowned agriculture consultant and researcher on the forefront. A magician, some would say. He's the real Doctor Strange. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing us into your hearts and into your minds. Here we are again on a night like this. I'm absolutely honored to be here this evening. It feels good to be back on the microphone, as you know. Hello to all of you out there, those of you on Patreon. Always nice to see you out there. Thanks for signing up. We've got another great show for you this evening, and it's all going down faster than Building 7. I hope you enjoy this one. We've got a lot of ground to cover with the doctor. He's in the house. Matter of fact, he is waiting. Let's bring him on. And joining me now is Dr. Richard Allen Miller. How are you, sir?
I'm good with a sneer, I need a little more cheese with my wine, but otherwise I'm surviving.
I'm glad.
This is a nutty place to be now.
It really is. You sort of aren't living where you usually are. You are in some new place
I'm
surrounded.
Down near Criminal Central, yeah. I'm down with the bikers, and oh man, you'll hear the noise out back in front because I'm less than 20 feet from Rogue River Highway, and all of your bikers use that rather than the freeway when they're going back and forth on, between Rogue River and Grants Pass or Medford, and they scream through here. When I say scream, I'm talking about very fast. There's a nice little straight stretch here on the Rogue River, and they wind it out, like a quarter-mile run.
Yeah, that's not good. And Richard, I do want to say thank you for being here with us this evening, and happy belated 4th of July to you.
Oh, yeah. It was a rainy one here in Oregon. What did it do down in California?
It was just slightly windy, but that's about it.
Yeah, well, it poured down rain here. And when I say poured down rain, I mean it rained hard.
So no fireworks out there?
Well, we had some, everybody, they're trying to make them illegal because of fire danger and
right.
But yeah, the usual things. But it was not as explosive. Is that the right word?
That's the right word.
Last year. Yeah.
I
mean, you didn't have the shooting stars and, oh, wow, look at that, man. It was more bang, pop, boom. And that was locals letting off, dynamite. Just kidding.
I understood.
It wasn't as spectacular because of the rain, probably.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say the rain probably added to that. And I hope you at least got to enjoy yourself to some extent, Doc.
Well, what do I do? I try to create life. It's alive! It's alive! That was Frankenstein. I can tell you that there are things now going on in the universe that don't make any sense. It's not about New World Order. It's not, there's something more going on here. And I'm concerned because when someone of my caliber and background and access does not have answers, I begin to wonder, why is that? I could seriously make an argument that we're in a petri dish. Literally, like when they rotated Cro-Magnon out and Neanderthal was in, it's humans are out and GMO is in. It's a whole new ballgame with even our children that are still human are damaged because they haven't been exposed to. That's what they do. That's what the purpose of school is one of the things is to expose you when you're a young person to some of these creepy things so your immune system's developed. And I can tell you that the children today have been so protected with wearing masks and things of that nature, their immune system is not as sharp as yours or mine.
Probably not. It's probably shot. And for those that don't know, you yourself contracted COVID and you thought you were going to die.
Yeah, well, there were 2 times when I was real close to death, but I'm still last man standing. I got the pneumonia, and it filled my lungs, and that was what nearly killed me. And when it did, it scarred my lungs. And now I have respiratory problems a little bit. I'm old, so, it doesn't matter as much because I'm 78, almost 79. But, I could have, it probably took another good 10 years off my life.
Holy hell.
Yeah. So I've got miles to go, however, before I can sleep. So
hey, you're good. You're not going to die anytime soon. And Doc.
No. My doctor, 40 years Seventh-day Adventist, that likes to whip out scripts if he can possibly can. I can't believe it. Said that I'm in better health today than I was 40 years ago when he first met me.
Well, that's great. That's a great sign.
Yeah, just stay focused. The foods you eat, the thoughts you think. It's all part of your diet.
Yes, I agree. And like you, I contracted COVID at least 3 times now.
I haven't gotten it. Well, I've gotten sick, but I'm uncertain that it was a COVID because it wasn't the same thing. When I got the COVID the first time in October, it was really, I was flat on my back. And then the lungs started filling with fluid, and that's when it got touchy.
Yeah, that's when it gets
really careful.
That's when it gets really scary once it's in your lungs like that.
Yeah.
Goddamn.
Yeah. But otherwise, I'm clean and sober. Here I am. How did Monty Python put it? Come back, I can still bite.
Right. And Doc, I got to say, for those that don't know you, can we sort of talk about your background just for a moment here?
Sure, that's good. Where would you like to start? At 15 and a half, old man, 1960, I was doing code for NASA. I did Fortran and Ingol, and these black ladies didn't have a clue how, it differed from Unix and Linux and some of the other older systems that had been around, Machine. And so I was doing code for them like Captain Crunch and Michael James, Reconnaissutio. Remember those names? Well, I was part of that group. And then that was old man DuPont, and he mentored me through Pullman, Washington State University. I graduated in physics. My project, undergraduate project for a thesis, was building the first plasma jet. And when I was 16, my senior year, I built a linear accelerator for my science fair project that created particles going faster than the speed of light. And it was 4 years later, they used them on the Mariner 4 to measure the water on Mars. It had, what you'd call Bremenstrahlen radiation back then was called Cherenkov radiation. And I don't know, old man DuPont then came back with several others and recruited me to do Delaware and work at the Experimental Research Station in Wilmington. And back in the late 60s, mid 60s. And then when I graduated from Delaware, I started working at Boeing. And that first job was Lunar Base Alpha 1. And then that's when my actual documented career with Navy intelligence began. I was working first with SEAL Corp out of Amherst, later became Navy SEAL in the SEAL program. I guess to give you reference, in 1971, NASA had me at Mission Control to do the ESP studies with Ed Mitchell so that I could use those protocols in 1972 to select SEAL Team 1. I measured their intuition. Intelligence is important, but when you come from the gut, the enteric nervous system, you do not, by definition, make mistakes. And so that was the first of a number of protocols I did. But then in 74, I started working with Dr. Carl Steiker, a.k.a. the Smoking Man, did all the paranormal studies for the military, and wrote early X-Files for Fox, did the workup, refused to move to Hollywood because I'd already done a tour with that.
I said you refused to.
Well, I didn't want to move to Hollywood. I'd already done my tour with Swingers and knew that I didn't want to do it. How did Ducky Mallard put it? An ethical man knows not to cheat on his wife. A moral man won't.
Understood. And speaking of your Navy background, did they make you do anything there that would be considered, nefarious?
Well, that's why the Greeks have divine tragedy and divine comedy. You've got to laugh your way out of this. My current quote, if you like to quote me, is,
sure.
It isn't about Black Lives Mattering. It's about how black humor matters. If you can't laugh your way out of it, I mean, what the sense is it? It's crazy out there. And you can't be serious about any of this because everything is broken now. And when I say that, I mean literally. Telephones, medicine, dentistry, law. I mean, just go right down the line. Everything's broken. I think the only thing our country has ever done right, and I was part of the SEAL program, okay, I think the only thing our country's ever done right was the U.S. Postal Service. Now, there's your front lines. And those people are always pleasant to be around. Always. They're in a good mood. They are literally, I wouldn't want to be handling everything that's coming across that counter.
Not me.
Gee.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the creep that's going on everything. Someone wiping his snot, whatever. It's nuts. And yet now they're going to try to privatize that. And that's wrong. I think that the U.S. Postal Service is what made America, as I remember when Canada went on strike and Toronto started opening packages and destroying mail to make a point. And the U.S. government would never have done that. The Postal Service, they would never have opened your mail and tried to destroy it to get a better raise. It's something we should be proud of, the Postal Service. And your postal clerk, the one that delivers your mail every day, that person is a really good person to you.
They are. I mean, sometimes they deliver good news, and sometimes, for the most part, the bad news.
It's a little darker, yeah.
Well, we need that.
Usually, that's a lawyer that does that on your doorstep.
They are the proverbial yin and yang.
Yeah. Well, they keep us connected, even beyond texting and voicemail and the rest of it. The kids today with texting, I mean, it's just not the same as sending a thank you note because someone gave you something nice. Yeah.
Whenever you receive a written letter, it's a lot more special than just a text message. Trying to in any kind of any sort of form of expression in a text it doesn't really hit you as hard as a written letter.
Yeah, something more personal
and
direct. Yeah. So, what would you like to talk about today?
We have all kinds of things to talk about. Before we even begin talking about, let's say, like CERN, for instance, or consciousness, or CERN. So many things to talk about.
They're going to turn that back on and create a whole bunch of mini black holes. And if you thought the Oregon vortex and the Bermuda Triangle were weird, watch what happens next.
Well, CERN
the Earth will consume itself. Yeah,
CERN just they turned it back on already today. Matter of fact,
I know, and I'm as a nerd scientist with 4 doctorates, I am absolutely concerned. Not CERNed, I'm concerned.
You're concerned,
and I mean seriously. It's one thing to horse around with, when you're dealing with physics that you don't understand. And by the way, physics won't get you there. It's not what you think it is. Everything in physics begins with an assumed truth. And I mean, that's literal. That means if the shortest distance between 2 points is straight line, it's round. But if space is curved, I can prove with tensor math the Earth's flat. Which one is it? And the correct answer is yes, because that's how limited our concept of space is, like time. And basically, I watched astrology become astronomy, and now it's going to go into, with end of days studies that we're doing, cosmobiology, or the geometric relationship of astral bodies and the relationship to Earth and what happens on Earth.
Well, this is the very first time we've seen anything like this, and, you know, people have taken to the internet claiming that they're opening portals out there. What do you make of them saying things like that? Do you really think CERN is actually opening a portal of sorts?
I have 3 books I'm writing. In 1974, I moved the Menninger Foundation from Topeka, Kansas, to the University of Washington to do video feedback systems, and that will be called The Diamond Body. The second book in that series is the work I did in 79 when I took more, it's called Electromagic, and then Yogatronics. Electromagic is when I used Mora and Indomet, German acupuncture equipment, on the top of the forehead to talk directly to neurotransmitters and bypassing the need to take drugs. In other words, any high that you could possibly imagine, you can do using electric currents on the top of the forehead. And that's going to be called Electromagic. Yogatronics was the work I did in 1983 when I created my own wormhole and did the Mars project. It has to do with a part of the brain called the Wernicke correction. Wernicke's correction is near the reticular activating center, and it accounts for confabulated memory. Now, I can tell you I don't know, but there's no way that anybody can travel in physical space to get to Mars. Even when I was at Mission Control in 1971, when they do the countdown, 5, 4, okay, what they're doing is they have to precision-wise punch a hole in the ionosphere to get that astronaut through there. Now, we have HAARP today, but even still, there's no radiation protection, and when you go around Mars, you can presume that Ed Mitchell is never going to have children again.
Oh, my God.
Well, that's the radiation, not neutrinos. I mean, just think of all the different mess out there with no protection. And to try to go from here to Mars in physical space is literally impossible. There's no possible way you could do that and survive.
And
however,
yes,
you can. Other forms of travel. Now, you are familiar with astral projection.
Absolutely.
You're familiar with remote viewing.
Correct.
You are familiar with soul travel.
Yep.
Well, okay. When you focus your mind's eye on specific geometry, you create a resonant cavity oscillator that sets up its own wormhole travel. It's different than astral projection or remote viewing. It's different than that. And that's what the Yogatronics will be about, using sacred geometry to travel through what you call space. And I did that in 1983 for the military.
That's wild, yes.
Now, oh man, where do you see what I'm doing now? You have no idea.
Jesus.
I mean, it's, I'm, Doctor Strange aside, and it's everything, everywhere, and every now, every when. That movie it's using our model of the first things coming out of my mathematics on what the multiverse. We are so non-aware that consciousness is not as real as lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming has more content to reality than consciousness does. Consciousness is a shared dream, and my first equation, now this is just the first thing, I'm using a virtual form of Kaufman's knot theory, but I'm a little Boy Scout tying knots out of strings. But basically, the multiverse is you, like when you're talking to your daughter, you're talking to yourself, except that person made a different choice of what to put on her breakfast cereal this morning. How many decisions did you make today? And that's what the multiverse is about. And it is the space between when a proton is a particle and then becomes a wave. That is called the proton cloud And that's where the multiverse lies, in all the different parts of you that chose to make a different decision this morning on different things that you're doing. And that's what made us God's favored.
And Richard,
how's that go?
It's going great. But I mean, going back to CERN really quickly here, the Large Hadron Collider,
what they're doing is going to create a whole bunch of mini black holes, like the one that's in Oregon Vortex back in 77. I think it was in 1977 for Schleicher. I took a PBY and flew over at 20,000 feet with an interferometer, and we were bending light at 20,000 feet at the Oregon Vortex. Now, what do we know that will do that physics? A mini black hole. And if CERN, we're opening doors we don't even have a clue yet what we're doing.
Yes, that's what I'm afraid of.
We need to be a lot more careful.
Yes, I believe this is
Go down into a singularity just like that. Boom, and gone. Gone, baby, gone. Now, does that mean it's the end of life?
No, not at all.
No idea. I have no idea what it means.
Yes, I don't think it's the end of life as we know it, but it is alarming. And all throughout centuries, we've had ancient depictions of man sort of traveling already using wormholes.
Yes, and or other kinds of vehicles we don't have any described. One of the studies I did that's interesting is the Tibetan Buddhists have a technology that we no longer use. I went through Nepal up into Tibet, and the Buddhists got out these big, long horns. They're, the big, long horns they use to communicate. When 17 of them, we documented this, when 17 of them are put in a specific geometric alignment, they so compressed the air that it lifted extremely large bodies that you could push with a finger. I saw it. I documented it. It's a technology that we do not have that it was in previous epochs.
No, that's amazing.
There are things I'm seeing today, like how does a woman, and I saw a woman once, rip a car door off, literally ripped it off to save her daughter in a flaming automobile.
You literally saw that.
Now, I'm sorry?
I said you saw that happen.
Yeah, that's what they had me do. Whenever there was phenomena like that, they brought in a team. We never could figure out what happened either, but what we were doing was discerning on what was worth study and what was just a bunch of horsepucky, like The Secret Life of Plants or something. And I can tell you that the adrenaline in her brain being released did not make her muscle and bone stronger than steel. So how does that work? And that's where the multiverse comes in, because the laws of physics are different. And these so-called altered states that people are afraid of from drugs, the drug, like a mushroom, is got a chemistry that's very similar to, but different than the neurotransmitter. The one you're most familiar with Rick Strassman, is 5-alpha dimethyltryptamine that the kids are smoking in a little glass pipe is not the same as the N dimethyltryptamine that Strassman and others studied as telepathine. And I can tell you that what happens is when you take these toxins, like lysergic acid diethylamide, it's completely broken down into salts and urine, into the urine within 20 or 30 minutes. And the 20 hours of high is your body's response, releasing neurotransmitters to protect the body from that. And it's these neurotransmitters that are resonant cavity oscillators dialoguing with subtle bodies outside the physical body.
In layman's terms, basically you're poisoning yourself when you digest the lovable shroom. And that's for the folks out there. And by the way, Richard, are you still at all consuming magic mushrooms at all in your older years here?
I don't need to do that. I do that with my mind's eye now, because it isn't the mushroom that does it. It's the release of a neurotransmitter.
Right.
And if you know your body, you can release the funny drugs any way you want to and go where you want to. Now, here's the other part of it. Like the gut, each brain is different with the hierarchy of neurotransmitters in the brain.
They're coming for you.
You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Well, your diet, what you're thinking, yeah, etc. Uniqueness is, and you have these things and can eat those things. And then there's blood types in terms of what enzymes can be created.
Yes.
What we're looking at is what we call the biohologram. That was something I wrote in 1973, and it's being quoted by Russian scientists all over today, from 40 years ago. And it's basically the DNA, the double helix, is a resonant cavity oscillator that's dialoguing or with subtle bodies outside the physical. In my latest book, The Non-Local Mind in a Holographic Universe, I talk about the microtubule on just outside the body filled with structured water. At the moment of death, there's a 5-gram weight loss in the body, which is not urine. What is it?
That's your soul.
Well, what you have envisioned is the physical representation of what you think a soul might imply. But again, is the earth flat or round? And what the cool part is if you look at the world this way, you have access to those doors. You look at it that way, and you have access to those doors. And if you use your mind as a tool, you can open all the doors.
I agree with you.
And that is what made us God's favored.
Speaking of God, obviously you believe in a creator of sorts.
Well, how could you not? I mean, there's something beyond us, just like there is on Earth. The example I use, because you don't notice it, is how many ants are on your property and who's terraforming it more. You know, we think we're superior because we have a thumb and fire, but there are fourth cetacean, like orca and the dolphin and the pilot whale and manatee, all have larger brain cases, and orca has access to 9/10 of the biosphere, where man can only access 1/10. Who's superior?
I think we know that.
There are technologies we don't even recognize. Like orca can see where a broken bone using sonar, you know, with his voice.
You know, I'm glad you
We don't
brought
have
this
a
up.
clue yet.
I'm glad you brought this subject. I was just going to say, I'm glad you brought this subject up, because I definitely wanted to talk about the experiments with dolphins and LSD being administered into them.
Oh, isn't that weird? Yeah.
With Dr. John
Now
Lilly.
they're laughing at us all the time.
You know,
Thanks for all the fish.
I know, right?
You know, like Hitchhiker's Guide, it's time for it to leave. Thanks for all the fish. You know, we don't have a clue yet what we're doing. And LSD has nothing to do with getting high. It has to do with the release of lysergic acid amides. These amides are what cause the 20 hours of hallucinations, and that's a type of consciousness in a part of the multiverse that you have yet to explore. And you can do things in those universes you can't do here. And ketamine, the one the kids are all experimenting now,
Sure.
is a very creepy drug. And in my humble opinion, even with my knowledge base and where I've been, I know I'm not ready.
So you stay away from that.
I stay away from almost everything now, including butter, salt. I mean, everything is a toxin.
It is.
Well, then what's a drug mean? It means you can't tax it? What? Like alcohol and tobacco? They're all bad. But they have access. What they do is they release neurotransmitters in the brain that are similar but different. And usually the toxin, whether it's a shroom or whatever, is gone. And, you know, that's novobiocystin, biocystin, psilocin, you know, all those drugs are similar but not the same.
They're not.
As your neurotransmitter.
Well, what's also different,
the gut
though.
does the same thing.
Well, what's crazy is that,
What's that?
You know, what's also pretty interesting is the fact that no other drug out there except for cannabis, THC. We actually have THC receptors, but that's for like the only drug. Everything else is, not really in our body already.
Crabgrass has dimethyltryptamine. That's where you extract the dimethyltryptamine.
Right.
And Mormon tea is your methamphetamine. And, you can go right on down the line. It's, these are not drugs anymore. What they are is possible delivery systems from God.
They're tools.
And it's a food to trigger your own body's natural response. And now we're going from human to GMO as the new petri dish.
Yes, and we'll talk about that in a second. Going back to dolphins really quickly, I forgot to mention this to you. I'm not sure what you make of this, and I don't either. But the last 3 or 4 times I've been to the beach, I've been able to I've been able to put all my thoughts and intents to hopefully see a dolphin by luck or miracle. And, all those times I was actually able to see dolphins really close to the shore, and I can have someone vouch for me all those times.
How did it go? I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't have believed it.
Right, and I wasn't alone.
Dolphins are everywhere.
Yes.
Well, they're intelligent. I mean, we're talking about more intelligent than humans.
Do you think they could perhaps pick up that frequency of someone wanting to see them so badly?
I have no idea. I started with John Lilly when he was at Berkeley, and then I ended up out in Dolphins Plus out at Key Largo. And I don't know what they're doing in Hawaii. That's kind of weird. But I can tell you I've spent hours in a pool with dolphin rehab centers and Cosmo was one that I worked extensively with, and I felt I was having a close encounter.
Yeah, that must have been pretty wild for you to actually be doing experiments with these dolphins.
Oh, yeah, and they're smart. I mean, they're smarter than the handler. I remember because I have my left arm is bionic. I have no bone in it.
Really?
You can't tell it. Yeah, it's I lost it in Cambodia training SEAL Team 3. But what happened was the dolphin was pulling me through the water differently on his fin than the other dolphin. I was being pulled by 2 dolphins, and the handler was trying to tell Cosmo to change because he was hauling me wrong. And the dolphin ignored him because he knew better, knowing that my artificial arm was different, and he was hauling me differently so that it worked. Now, dolphins are way more intelligent, and I've watched orca chase dolphin for food chain. So,
that's pretty crazy.
What's going on here? Yeah, imagine that. And there's all kinds of diets. It doesn't have to be rich in protein.
Right.
It could be rich in neurotransmitters. Who knows? Something tastes better than another one because it's got these neurotransmitters over that one. No, as a metaphor,
Yes.
How did Gregory Bateson put that metaphor part? What is your metaphor but to serve your paradox? So I have a paradox out in my meadow.
And I like that, by the way. That was good.
I love it when you go silent like that for a minute, trying to see it in your mind's eye. That is what makes it real. Your mind's eye.
Yes, I was picturing that.
When you see it, yeah, when you can see it in your mind's eye, that's why children are probably our single most important natural resource.
In which way?
I'm sorry?
I said in which way exactly?
What do you mean? Oh, children? They're going to be the ones that save this earth, not you or me.
Well, ultimately, they should be able to. We've created enough trouble as it is.
I know, and we're making it more and more difficult because look at what we're doing to their educational system, not even talking about the immune system and the rest of it, not exposing them. And now it's GMO. And my kid got a 3rd booster. Why would they do that to a child?
Well, I think you know why they want to do that. It's creating lots of issues for them.
Well, but they, who's they? See, that's the part that's concerning me. When you start to sharpen down on who that means, they.
They.
What does that mean?
Well,
yeah, is that a gray? Is that what is that? What the hell is that? Dying.
Could be a few things.
What is that?
Could be many things, but yeah.
Correct. I don't know.
Hope you're not vaccinated.
No, of course not. Why would I do that?
Well, you
that's
never
why
know.
I nearly died. I'd rather die than be vaccinated. Actually, that's the truth of it. I would not go to a hospital because what they were doing, they could have taken someone my age and just killed me.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did it. Can't lose you like that.
I didn't either.
Yeah, we can't lose you to that sort of
now,
nonsense.
at least I'm a grumpy old man. All my teeth are falling out. My hair is gone. I'm bald. Come back. I can still bite.
Yeah. And for those wondering out there, going back to, the SEALs and the Navy rather, why do you think they put so much emphasis on testing everyone in the Navy with ESP stuff?
It's about intuition. When you think about which way to go because the bullets are flying,
sure,
you include the possibility of being shot.
Sure.
And that was Merlin in a book by T.H. White when he said, anything not specifically forbidden is mandatory. If it's possible, you can count on it. That's why when you come from the gut, instinct,
yes,
enteric nervous system, you do not, by definition, make mistakes. If you get shot, you're supposed to take that bullet for the team.
Yeah, you definitely do see that sort of mentality for those in the Navy.
Well, that's when, what is it? Jack Nicholson and the gay guy comes up to him, Jack Nicholson, and he says, how come my dog loves you more than me? Jack Nicholson rolls his eyes like he does, and he says, I feed it bacon.
You got that from the movie As Good as It Gets, by the way.
That's it. It was a wonderful movie.
Good movie, yeah.
The one I liked best, though, was Being There with Peter Sellers. That's got to be all-time best with Chauncey Gardner at the end of the movie, walking on water.
Oh, yeah. I forgot you're a big movie guy, too.
No, my gift was eidetic imaging. If I see something, I've got it forever. You
have one of those memories.
I don't hear very well. Yeah, I'm deaf, and I don't remember names and things like that. But if I see something, like I see your face, I can close my eyes and 20 years later see a mole that I didn't notice consciously. I take pictures like a child. I'm basically a 4-year-old that never became 7, and now I'm in a 79-year-old body.
And that must scare the hell out of you. You're like, what is that in the mirror?
No, I laugh a lot. There's nothing else I can do about it but laugh,
Of course.
Scare people a little bit, make them, what just happened? Rick just happened.
And, one thing I did want to ask you here, which is, it's very random, Doc, but, you're quite popular.
Sure, that's fine.
You're quite popular on the internet and in reality. I often wonder if you come across any rumors, like, about yourself.
Oh, yeah. I'm a Satanist, I'm a this, I'm a that. I'm the physicist that didn't blow himself up. My other book I'm writing is on the tarot. I'm taking a whole new concept of the tarot and magic and going to try to make it a proper field of study in physics.
But what do you make of those people out there that say, all these ridiculous things about you, like you're a Satanist, like you just mentioned, or you have handlers of such?
Well, a Satanist is a perverted form of Christian. And while I'm a Missouri Synod Lutheran, my parents were atheists, and they sent me to catechism to armor me for the high school that I went to, where they, all those that believe in the Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And I was raised in the Philippines as a child.
Were you?
I was raised in Shaolin Temple. That's where I learned how to fight.
I didn't know that part.
Caucasian.
Yeah, I didn't know that about you.
What's that?
Oh, I said I had no idea
you
lived. No, not out there.
Mom was Indochina Theater with Kodak, and my dad was a pilot out of ADAC and Kodiak. And so they stuck me in the Philippines.
That makes sense now.
And that's my first languages was Tagalog, Palau, and Mandarin 1. I didn't even speak English until I came to the United States.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't, my third grade report card said, Ricky is very disruptive. He asks too many questions.
That's funny.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that great? And in fourth grade, I couldn't read English, so they made me stay after school every night to read and learn how to read English. In fifth grade, I read every single science fiction book in our local library that had an atom on the end of it.
Interesting.
Then they found out was, he's kind of erratic. We need to put him on Ritalin, and Mom wouldn't let him do that to me. And then they wanted to advance me. Oh, he's brilliant. Let's move him. And she wouldn't let him do that, so I was semi-normal. We'll call myself Peri-normal.
Peri-normal.
How's that one?
I like that.
Yeah, I'm Peri-normal. Yeah, or Pericomitatus. I got to meet him. That was my driver for Dennis Kucinich. When Kucinich hired me to do a bunch of bunkers for him in the Midwest. That time he was calling himself president of the Midwest. It was really weird. And his driver was Perry Comitatus.
That's a little odd.
I know. I have seen such things and done such things for the military that it's just unbelievable.
And by the way,
in Spokane.
Yeah. By the way, Richard, are you still an asset to any governmental entity? By the way, just curious.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Do you help any?
Differently.
Well, do you help any? Let's say any governmental branch out there at all? Still.
Yeah, I work with Navy intelligence. I manage bunkers.
Okay.
I'm the guy that goes in, look at the young kids, and suggest they might need some oars for this lifeboat. Make it sustainable. That's what Matt Stein and I did until his untimely death.
Oh, yeah.
We were doing survival skill workshops.
Matt Stein.
And, Matt. Yeah, Matt was my partner.
He was a good guy.
He died.
Was it?
Yeah, he fell from El Capitan with aortic aneurysm.
Yeah, I was gonna say he had like oh shit! I knew he had a brain aneurysm. You know, I've interviewed him before. He gave me a few of his books. He's a great guy. You know, a lot of our interviews are out there on the internet still. Matt Stein, great guy.
We were doing urban survival skill workshops.
But the thing is, I didn't know he like fell off a cliff or something. Or
he was climbing El Capitan at the time.
Oh my God. I didn't know that part. Holy shit. That's crazy.
We always thought he would be last man standing because of his diet, with keshi and all his shit. He's a little wiry kid.
Yeah. After all these years, this is the first time I heard he actually fell from a cliff. So I'm like taken back. I'm like, whoa, that's no way to go.
Yeah, well, it was, It wasn't the fall that killed him.
Yeah, it wasn't the fall.
He was dead.
Mm-hmm. Damn.
Yeah, it was,
That is terrible.
And there was no accounting on it. It was just like, that's the way it happened,
What do you think is the worst way to die, Richard? Drowning and being eaten by a shark, or a brain aneurysm and falling off a cliff, basically? What's worse?
Flip a coin. Which way do you want to go? Well, most likely, anything that you can imagine is how you died in one of the universes.
Maybe sleep is the best way.
Keep your imagination tight, buddy.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we all go in our sleep.
It's all true. That's the part that's interesting, is that it's all true. And that's the new movie, the Everywhere, Every When, and Every Now. That new movie that's coming out. It'll be on the multiverse and the possibilities of what happens. Yeah,
there's a lot of what ifs.
That's correct. And we don't know, but what we do know is, if you can see it in your mind's eye, that's where imagination becomes reality. And that's chapter 8. I was going to say chapter 7 on the, it's called, in the non-local mind, it's called Time Travel and the True Nature of Cavitation. And basically, it's when a drop of water hits a pool of water and then goes down into the water and goes poip and comes back up. It's no longer a drop of water.
Right.
It's a bubble. And it's cavitating.
And Richard, how many books do you have now, by the way?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
There's so many.
Hundreds. Yeah. That's what I do is I write.
Right. And, I did like the Power Tools for the 21st Century. I do have that book, as well as the magical and ritual use of herbs.
Yeah, then there's the magical and ritual use of aphrodisiacs, and the magical and ritual use of perfumes. And now my new title is the magical and ritual use of metaphor, archetypal gods in daily living. Basically, I'm suggesting there are 22 stories in the big city.
Yeah.
And you're either possessed, which means you have only one storyboard going on, or you're complexed, more than one. You and I probably have 5 or 6 primaries.
I agree.
Persephone having to go to Hades each year would be someone having to take drugs once a year because they're depressed at Christmas. Now, each storyboard has an ending. If you don't like that ending, that's when you do pathworking to change the movie. And this is where magic becomes advanced physics.
And when are these books being released, by the way? These newer ones?
I do them through my own website, Oak Publishing, at richardallenmiller.com, ALAN, Miller.com, /bookstore, /. I have 15 audiobooks on the 11 years I taught 15 8-week courses at Harvard on metaphysics.
And around this time, when you were teaching out there, you were close friends with Timothy Leary, correct?
Well, Timothy Leary was back in 1964.
A little bit before, actually, yes. Yeah.
1964, when it was still legal. I was 20 years old. I was going to Pullman. And what they did, Harvard wanted to do a study on what would happen if they gave LSD to 10 brilliant people. And I had the highest IQ out of state of Washington and was invited into the program. He came out and visited my mom, then visited Professor Riggins at Pullman, and then I got to meet him. I remember I'd never drank alcohol. I was a nerd.
Sure.
Physics and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was up at Reception Pass, Hurricane Ridge, looking 2,000 feet down into Puget Sound, and the water was boiling back colors. And Leary leaned over and he said, "Wouldn't it be neat to jump?"
Wow.
I discovered at that moment Aldous Huxley and the doors of perception, and how many doors were closing shut in my mind. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to think that. And I became fascinated with inner space. And that's why I went into solid state physics rather than astrophysics.
And by the way, what was Timothy Leary like? Like as a person, was he, laid back, that sort of deal, or was he a little different?
Yeah, he was intense, like I am, but he was mellow, very opinionated politically, of course. And I'm not as politically oriented. I know that I don't know what's going on, with Ukraine and Russia.
Sure.
But, the Ukraine-Russian thing could be likened to Kansas and the United Nations wanting to take Kansas out of the United States. It's our breadbasket. So is the Ukraine. That's where all the food comes from for the Soviet Union, or Russia.
All the wheat is out there.
They want to give that up.
Yeah, the whole thing is a little strange. Some people
there's more going on
than we know.
The media. Yeah, and the bad news, we'll probably never really know what happened.
It's very odd, the whole situation out there. I mean, we live in a time where there's cell phones and videos, and you look around the internet and there's no footage of
but what
much.
Can you trust? There's nothing out there. No one. I mean, it's the media. It has. I remember as a boy, it used to be Walter Cronkite and Charles Kuralt on the road, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, you trusted these sources.
Then when Dan Rather came on, we started slipping over to CNN and some of the other channels to get a broader view of what's going on.
Yeah.
Today, none of them are going to give you anything real.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's all agendaed.
It's like, who do you trust?
Yeah.
That's
How did they in the movie, the series, The Prisoner, be seeing you? mind control at its very finest. Good luck with that.
Right. So you're not for, well, obviously you're against this war, the one in Ukraine.
Yeah, listen, there's
sure.
Well, war is good for business.
Very good
That's
for
what it's all about.
It's very good for, yes.
That's all it's about. Yeah.
It's good for the industrial military complex.
Well, and NATO made an vow back in World War II. They would.
To listen to the entirety of this interview, please go to